Hi everyone, and welcome back to Lavender Cottage Fibre Arts podcast. My name is Anna.
I'm Pia.
And we are twin sisters from Melbourne or Naarm in Australia. This is going to be a knit and chat episode. I actually can't remember.
Oh, yeah, no, we've done a couple.
Maybe it's like number five or six approximately.
Yeah.
So we're just doing a knit and chat today, and then our next episode will be like one of our regular podcasts where we share like whips and finished objects and stuff. But for today, we're just doing a knit and chat. Before we get into it, we would like to acknowledge that we're recording our video on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin nation, and we'd like to extend our respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, in addition to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who happen to be watching this video. So obviously Pia's back from her holiday. She survived.
Not that there was any doubt.
She didn't get bitten by a snake or anything.
Attacked by a wild buffalo
or crocodiles or anything. So she was hiking in the Northern Territory in Australia. Northern Australia for about a week and a half-ish.
Yeah, I did some hiking and then I also just did like some camping. And yeah, it was very nice. It was very warm.
Yeah.
I think the temperatures was average around 34 degrees, like the maximum temperature, which I think I looked up before in Fahrenheit, I think it's about 93, 94.
Like in the 90s, yeah.
Yeah. And then when I arrived back in Melbourne, because the flight got in at about 5:30 in the morning, it was like 1 degree.
Oh, geez.
1 degree Celsius, which I think is about 30 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So a big difference. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and would highly recommend if anyone in sort of southern Australia is looking for somewhere warm to go during the winter.
And actually, like, probably obviously not yet, but I was saying to Pia, it might be kind of cool if she did, because we have been meaning to go and do another Saori weaving workshop. And
especially now that Heather, because I think, did we mention previously her studio has relocated? So it previously was in Dalesford, which was, or near Dalesford, which is a very nice part of Victoria. But for us, it just meant that doing her workshop was a bit more expensive because we would stay like overnight in that area. Whereas now that it's in Templestowe, just kind of in suburban
Melbourne,
Melbourne,
the corner kind of thing,
that it's I guess a bit easier to.
And because I think the last time we went, you actually did both of the weavings that you did was kind of like a landscape, wasn't it?
Like sort of like a landscape picture. One was sort of like an ocean kind of
with some cliffs and a beach and stuff.
Yes, and then the other one was sort of like some kind of like rolling green hills kind of thing.
Yeah, so I said to Pia it might be like really nice for her to make a weaving, like if she got like her favourite photo or like the most spectacular scenery or whatever from her trip, because like I guess like that part of Australia is very, very different to like where we live. It might be cool.
Yes, because that's sort of northern Australia, well, where I was hiking, it's all like sandstone country. But the sandstone there is very high in iron. So like when it rains, the iron oxide that comes out of the rocks turns it red.
Yeah.
So it's, very kind of, and then you have a lot of like contrast. I guess if you're just talking in like terms of colours for like planning or weaving, that you have kind of like the red of the sandstone, you have like the green of all the vegetation, and then the blue of the sky. Like I think something like that has a lot of like contrasting
nice
colours.
Palette, yeah.
Yeah. So that's something to think about.
But for today's knit and chat, we are just doing a bit of a wrap up, I guess, of there's been quite a few like crafty events in the last month or so. So we thought we would just do a bit of a wrap up, and I did at some of them film a little bit. So if I do have some video, I'll just kind of put it here,
splice it into
in between the two of us. But, and I guess maybe we'll go, like, chronologically probably makes the most sense.
Yep. But before we do that, should we just quickly say what we're actually working on in
good idea.
Today's episode. So what are you working on?
This is still my public transport knitting. So a pair of socks that I've been working on for a couple of months now, but I just keep working on other things in between. So they're just vanilla socks with some 2x2 ribbing for the cuff. I'm onto the foot now though, so I've finished the heel on both of them, and I'm on to the foot. So they should actually be finished within, I don't know, a couple of weeks or a week or so.
Depending on how much public transport you get.
Yeah. So the yarn, this one is from Maximu, who is a Victorian-based indie dyer, I think based on the Mornington Peninsula. And the colourway is called, it's either called Whiz Fizz or Fizz Whiz. I can't remember. Yeah, one of those two. Which is like a sherbet. I think it might be
a sherbet lolly kind of thing.
Whiz Fizz is like a sherbet, like you get a little packet of it in Australia. Like it's like a kids lolly. I'm pretty sure it's still
they probably still would.
I'm pretty sure they still make it. So yeah, the colourway is called Whiz Fizz, and I'm working them 2 at a time just on a magic loop. So what are you working on?
Before I actually start this row, so I can hold it up without it.
Oh, I mean, I know.
Without the stitches falling off.
I know what you're working on.
Yes.
So I don't have to ask you.
Oops.
So this is the Hue Shift
Afghan, which is from Knit Pick. So I just bought the pastel rainbow kit. And this is knit in their Brava Sport, which is just a sport weight acrylic yarn. And I'm actually on the last... Oops, I don't know if you can really see.
Of this panel.
Yeah, I'm on the last square. Because the kind of like the centre squares is the solid colour.
Yeah.
And so I'm up to the solid colour of the lightest blue.
Yep.
So I'm almost finished one panel, and I have done a bit of another panel as well, but because I wanted to try doing continental knitting instead of English, so I decided to start on the opposite end.
And you've done that whole panel. Yeah.
Yes. This whole one has been in continental, but my gauge was pretty much the same as the one that I had already done in English knitting, so I think I will actually be able to keep that rather than having to pull it out.
Yeah. We might just pause for 1 second. There's someone at the front door, so we'll be back in 2 seconds.
Waiting through the window.
All right, that's all good. It was our mum was like waving at us through the window. So if we were like smiling or like looking a bit like, oh, what's going on there? It was she was waving,
just waving through the window,
waving at us through the window. She went on a bit of a walk, I think. So yes, that's what we're working on. So on to the event recap, I guess. So this would have been now, I think, over a month ago, because it was before we went. It was before the King's birthday weekend, wasn't it?
Yes, and like before I went away.
Yeah.
Are you meaning the Coburg one?
Yes. So I might actually start with some of these Pia both of us went to, and some of them was either while Pia was away or you were doing other stuff. So I went by myself or with other like knitting friends.
Yeah.
So on the day of the I think it's called the Hand Knit and Crochet Guild of Victoria, I think, has a yearly market at the Coburg Town Hall.
Yes. Which is very convenient for me because I live in Coburg, so it's just kind of around the corner.
Yes. I feel like that was actually the first weekend in June. I think that's when it was.
Yeah, that probably is right.
So, and I think usually, I'm pretty sure in the past that has only been a 1 day kind of affair, but this was the first year that they actually did it
over both days.
Over Saturday and Sunday.
Because we went on Sunday, didn't we?
No, we went on the Saturday.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Can't remember.
That's okay.
So long ago.
But on the Saturday morning, before I went to the Coburg Town Hall, I actually went to the Rose Street Artist Market in Fitzroy.
Oh, that's right. I remember.
Yeah, because a few friends from my knitting group, and I actually did already show in our last podcast episode the yarn that I bought from Carly, because it was some hand spun yarn, and I was talking about the project that I was going to use it for, which I've actually finished now. So in our next podcast episode, I'll be able to share like my finished object from the hand spun that I purchased there. But yeah, I did take a little bit of video footage there. I think Carly was the only one selling yarn.
At this market?
Yeah, at the Rose Street Artist Market.
Because that's not like a sort of fibre arts market. That's just not a general kind of handicraft.
Yeah. And it's in Rose Street in Fitzroy, in the inner suburbs of Melbourne. And I think she said the organisers for that are actually pretty good about regulating, like, because I guess like if you, I don't know, make handmade soaps or whatever, you don't want to turn up and there's like
10
half
other
a dozen
people.
other people selling the exact same thing as you.
So well, I suppose it's also like for their like patrons or customers to have like a good experience at a market,
good
like
variety
that you would want to have like a lot of variety, because there will obviously be some people who are not interested in like cosmetics, or you know, maybe not interested in buying clothes or whatever.
But there were a few fibre arts kind of stuff. So Ashi, who's another friend from our knitting group, she was selling scrunchies, bonnets, bandanas, shrugs, like sort of small accessories that she had, were mostly crocheted, but some of them were knit as well. But then there was one or two other people with crochet stuff, but they were those sort of micro crochet that people do like with thread kind of thing. So making,
I mean, that's quite different, I guess.
Yeah, it was very different.
Even though it's like still a crochet technique, the finished product's quite different.
And I think there was also a lady that had some punch needle like coasters and things like that. But there was a lot of jewellery, a fair bit of ceramic stuff, and a lot of, I guess, artists who were selling
like
prints. I think that was probably the main, I guess the type that there was the most of was prints. So, but it was, I guess it a little bit reminded me of, I guess, something like the Finders Keepers or something like that, but just
on a smaller scale.
On a smaller scale. So I mean, and I think they just did it as a one-off. But I think there are some people who have a regular, like have a stall there every week. And I'm pretty sure it is either every Saturday or every second Saturday, but I can, they have a website, so I'll put the link to their website in the description box.
Do you know, did they say like how expensive it was to have a stall there?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was like less than $100.
Okay, so I guess that's a good price if someone was sort of just kind of dipping their toes into the thing of seeing whether they're like, whether there's sort of like demand for the things that they're making and whether their prices are good or whatever, that you're not going to spend hundreds of dollars renting a market stall and then only sell, you know, $100 worth of product or whatever and be very out of pocket.
And I think they said that they both had a pretty successful day. However, like it was a lot of work to get all the stock ready, I guess.
To make enough inventory.
Yeah, that was what I think. And I know in particular, I think Ashley was a little bit stressed before that she wasn't going to have, because I think you always need to have more than what you think you're going to sell, because
your store won't look very inviting if you have one or two items left.
And on one hand you might think, oh well, then I'll look really successful that I've sold out, but then people want to feel like they have a choice and they've got a nice selection of things to choose from. I think from that aspect, I think she said it was a little bit stressful to make all the inventory.
I mean, I think also I've seen like some markets will have rules that like you're not allowed to pack up your stall early either, like that you have to stay even if for the whole duration. Even if you're sold out, that you basically just have to stay there. Because I mean, it wouldn't be very inviting for like patrons to visit the market if half the stall holders have packed up, kind of thing. Like if I walked into a market like that, I probably would just be like, oh,
is this over?
I won't really bother. Like maybe they've already started packing up, kind of thing. Maybe it's already sort of half finished and I won't bother, kind of thing. So
and so then after that, then I drove to Coburg and I met you there at the Coburg Town Hall.
Oh yeah, I remember, because when I caught the train.
Oh, that's right, because you were in the city.
I'd been in the city,
like
getting
some hiking shoes or something.
A few last minute things for my trip. Yeah, I remember. It's all coming back to me now.
So that one, it's an annual market at the Coburg Town Hall. I think this year it was quite a bit later, because I vaguely remember last year.
Oh, it was around Mother's Day, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure it was on Mother's Day, which was a bit of an odd choice, I suppose. Yeah. You might be like, a fun
sort of Mother's Day activity
if your mum was a knitter, but like if your mum wasn't a knitter or crochet, you drag them along and they would be like, this isn't very I don't know, I don't feel spoiled.
If they're like, I would rather just go to brunch or something.
Yeah, but if your mum was a knitter or a crocheter, she would be like, oh, this is the best Mother's Day ever. Anyway, so it's the Hand Knit and Crochet Guild of Victoria, I think is the name, and it's their annual market. So that one, how many stalls do you reckon there was? About 30 or something?
Yeah, I guess so.
And that one has a pretty good variety, I think, traditionally, of both yarn and fibre. There were quite a few people there selling fibre for spinning.
And I think there was a mix of, like, a lot of the yarn was hand-dyed, but then there was also some commercial. Like, there was someone who, is it Noro, that Japanese branded yarn? Like, there was a stall there. There was a couple of...
And I think a few sort of the smaller fibre mills from Victoria. Like, I think, is it called Great Southern Yarns or... Great Ocean Road, I can't remember.
So I guess a good mix of like different kind of price ranges.
And like whether you want hand dyed or if you want, just good quality Australian yarn. I think, and I think Ixchel, who they have yarn, but they also have a lot of fibre, and they also have spindles. I think that is the only market that she does is the Coburg one. So if you want to. And I think she does have a website, but if you want to buy in person,
that's your only
opportunity. And I know Louise, one of my friends who is a spinner, she was quite interested in their fibres, but also to have a look at their spindles, because she's recently gotten into spinning. So like I didn't buy any fibre, but I did quite enjoy like looking at all of the
because I guess it's not the same as just looking at pictures.
Online
that you want to be able to feel it, and I think see the colours. That was actually one thing that I find slightly annoying about the location of the Coburg one is I think because it's in their like town hall, which is like probably over 100 years old, like just the lighting is really bad, so I feel like sometimes it's a bit hard to see. Like I think in comparison to something like that Murrell Bark Festival where some of the vendors are outside, that you can obviously get
it's
a
much
much
in like the sunlight
better like perception, I guess, of the colours in daylight, rather than in this sort of fairly dimly lit kind of hall.
But I guess that's kind of not really within the vendor's control. But I guess like maybe some of them might consider to bring
like a lamp or
something. Or I'm sure like a lot of them, they're so nice. Like I'm sure some
you could
of them,
say, can I just take this outside?
Can I just have a look at this skein outside? Because I just want to see the colour,
the proper colours in the sunlight
or something. To be honest, I'm sure they wouldn't have any issues with that. And there were also a few stalls selling like printed patterns. And then notions like stitch markers and
there are a few places even selling like finished. I think there was maybe one or two selling finished. Although I suppose some of them, if they have like a finished garment, it might just be as like an example for the pattern that they're not actually selling it. Yeah. But I think there was definitely like that stall where I was asking if it was that entrelac knitting, and it wasn't. It was Tunisian crochet.
I think they were selling maybe some of their old samples, I guess.
Yes, because they were actually, I think, quite reasonably priced for something that's handmade.
Yeah.
They had shawls for, I think they were maybe about sort of like $70 or $80 kind of thing. But I suppose that if it's like been a sample that's been used at a lot of markets, that it's like it's not brand new, but I mean, I think it's still like a good price.
Yes.
For something that's handmade and like made with good quality materials.
And I think, so most of the vendors at this market, I think most of them were probably ones that I had at least heard of. But I feel like still every time you go, you find there's some like new dyer that you haven't heard of, or, maybe you've vaguely heard of them but never actually seen.
Or I guess even if it's someone you've heard of before, but they might have a new kind of collection or colourway that they've...
Yeah. And also, there's lots of people selling like, like buttons and like shawl pins and that kind of stuff. So even if you're not looking for yarn, like there's still, other yarn adjacent goodies. And now speaking of goodies...
Oh yeah, I didn't buy anything, but you did, didn't you?
Yes. Is it time for show and tell?
Oh yeah, it can be.
Okay. I think I've packed this bag incorrectly because...
you packed it in the wrong order.
The stuff that I put on the bottom. Yeah, the stuff that I got at Coburg is on the bottom. So let me just quickly... rearrange. And I did actually show in our last podcast episode, I did show I showed the hand spun that I bought from Carly, and I also showed I bought a skein of merino 4-ply, a non-superwash from Tess at Fluff and Nonsense, because I showed that as part of a dream weaving, and I actually didn't end up using that for a sock. I used something else, But that is actually also from Fluff and Nonsense. So maybe I actually will quickly show that. Because I didn't buy that at Coburg because she had sold out of this colour.
Oh, but she posted it to you.
But yeah, I ordered it and she posted it to me. So,
oh wow, that's quick that it's already arrived.
Oh yeah, I got it within like a week. Because I think
I suppose that was like a month ago.
She already had it. I think she'd already dyed it for a wholesale order. And it was like a surplus from the wholesale order. So she already had it. But she just didn't have it at the market.
If she's based in Victoria.
Yeah, she's in Geelong, I think. So yeah, that one was what I ordered at Coburg, but I didn't buy it. And I can give you a sneak peek of this test knit that I'm doing as well. It's not a secret test knit, so it's fine. This is her BFL nylon sock base, and the colourway is called Cocoa. So I'll see if I can sort of obscure Pia's face. Yeah, there we go.
It's always wanting to focus on the face, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is, and I'm testing, the sock that I'm testing is called the Sunken Cathedral sock, which is a test knit for Jess Thompson, who's Knit and Knotten. But yeah, so I originally had planned to use the chestnut, but then when this arrived so quickly, I was like, oh, because I think the chestnut is maybe just slightly more variegated than this colour, which is called Cocoa. So I thought the design looked a bit better in a bit more of a tonal rather than a variegated, to really let that sort of detailing at the cuff kind of not get hidden in between the sort of colour changes. So yeah, I didn't purchase that. Well, I did purchase it at Coburg, but I didn't take it home from Coburg with me. But then on to what I did purchase. So these first two, this is from a new to me dyer. I hadn't heard of this dyer before. It's called, I don't know if you can see that, Green Tea Yarns. And this is just I think all of their bases are named after different types of tea.
Oh, so yeah. I think I remember this and I was like, oh, this is like very up our alley.
Yeah, because we love tea. This base is called their Darjeeling sock base, which is an 8515 superwash merino nylon. So this colour I think is called Frog Green.
Really appropriate name.
Yes. And then this one is the same base, is called Wild Thing. So yeah, those were just 2 skeins of sock yarn, and then, as I do, I also bought some yarn from Maximu. I feel like every time he is at a market, I buy it.
Oh, you're like his VIP.
So
should ask him to sponsor you. Just kidding.
Well, I sponsor him at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I think you do.
So I got 3 skeins. So this one, and they're all on his luxury sock base, which is also an 8515 superwash merino nylon. So this one is called Ghoulish, and I think I have actually seen on Ravelry, just because of the way this one is variegated, it makes like these sort of micro stripes. So like you end up basically having a row in the sort of yellowy, and then a row
of the purple.
So we'll see how that works up.
I guess that would depend on like the girth of whatever you're.
Yes, yeah, and
whether if you mean if you use it for a sock.
If you knit in the round, yeah. But obviously, if you knit flat or have a dramatically different stitch count, it will be different. This one is called Frog in a Bog, which is quite nice, sort of like minty greens with some sort of darker green kind of speckles.
You made one frog on a log. It could have like green and brown.
Ooh, yeah. And then this one is called Opal Mine. Sort of this, what would you call that? Like electric blue, do you reckon?
I mean, I don't know what the sort of technical terms are for colours.
But yeah, I quite like that. I actually think that maybe this colourway might be nice to make like a little beanie or something for our nephew, do you reckon?
Oh, yeah. Because he does wear a lot of like blue, I think.
Yeah,
Not in the sort of like blues for boys way, but I don't know, I guess they're just kind of... Blue's a nice colour.
Yeah. So that was my sort of little haul from Coburg. Sorry, our camera just had a bit of a seizure. So
if there's just like a slight glitch or it cuts off a little bit, that's why.
But I think so we were talking about before I talk about the last markety type event, the other crafty events I've been to recently was a crochet influencer, I guess. I don't know. Her name...
Instagrammer.
Yeah. Her sort of business is called So Hooked Crochet, but is in like... S-E-W, yes, So Hooked Crochet. She has started running these crafty cinema nights, and I think initially she didn't think, well, I guess just didn't really know what the demand for it would be, but the first one I think she had to upgrade to a bigger cinema like 3 times or something like that, and then the second one she booked the biggest cinema they had, and it's still sold out within like 24 hours. Okay. But the premise is it's just like a movie at like a cinema. Like the ones so far have been at a cinema called Classic Cinemas in Elsternwick, but I think one of the future ones is going to be somewhere else. I can't remember. But they don't completely darken the cinema. It's just dim. So the idea is, for people to be able to, because I guess some people can knit in the dark. But I think it is a little bit tricky and depending on what you're working on and that type of thing. I don't think I would be able to knit in the dark. Yeah, but it was just, I don't know, heaps of fun. And like literally everybody in the cinema was crafting. I mean, there were a lot of people were either knitting or crocheting, but there were also people doing like embroidery. Oh, yeah. I think maybe some people doing sort of like slow stitching, like sort of English paper piecing or something like that. I even saw someone who was just like doing like colouring, like in in
one of those like mindfulness colouring books. I mean, I suppose it could be someone who maybe was going with some friends and they weren't particularly crafty, but they were just like, I just want some sort of like crafty activity to work with.
And I think basically you can do whatever you like. The only like I guess expectation is that it has to fit within your seats. I think she was like, you can't bring a sewing machine. And I was like, yeah, but where would people plug it in anyway? Yeah,
I suppose also just things that make mess, like if you're like painting or whatever.
Oh yeah, and that was the other thing. Like you have to take all of your like any mess. You've got to clean it up. I guess maybe if someone wanted to bring like a spinning wheel, I think that might be...
Oh, the noise would be a bit...
Well, and it's probably just a bit big, maybe. That is probably one of the main crafts that I could think of that people might want to do in the cinema, but probably doesn't really fit within the seat. Yeah.
I think recently I saw, maybe it was on that Australian Knitters United Facebook page, like a craft noon tea sort of event at like a bar or like a gin distillery. And I think, their requirements, you couldn't have anything that involved heat. So I guess anything that uses like hot glue or like heat guns or whatever. I mean, I think it would be fair enough if they just said nothing that involves like any electrical appliances, because then they don't want the liability if your appliance has some like issue with it and starts a fire or whatever. And also nothing that made like excessive amounts of mess. So they probably would say like no glitter, for example.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And I think they just had a disclaimer that like you had to present your like craft that you're going to work on to their staff, and it was up their staff could sort of veto and say this is too messy. Oh, okay. Yeah. Which is fair enough. Like they don't want people, if they have like tables or whatever, they don't want people getting paint all over their table or whatever. It would cost some money to remove it.
And so I think the first one they did was 10 Things I Hate About You, and then the second one was a double feature, so they had The Princess Diaries and The Devil Wears Prada. So I think they seem to choose like movies that are pretty lighthearted, like not a super complicated plot kind of thing, so that you can...
if they're older movies, probably like more than likely it's movies that people have seen it before, that if you weren't following the screen for a minute or so, like you would still know what was going on, kind of thing.
So I really enjoyed it, and I think the next one that she's having is already sold out. So but I guess I'll leave her Instagram account in the description box. I think that you can sign up to receive like email notifications. So I think if you were interested in one of them in the future, I would say definitely sign up for email notifications, because probably by the time you happen to see about it on social media, it might already be sold out. Don't wait to purchase a ticket. But she does have, there's like a Facebook group, I guess, for it as well. And I think that there were plenty of people who were, I guess, not able to attend and were selling tickets. So I think if you sort of bought a ticket and then couldn't attend, I think
you would be able to.
There's a pretty high chance that you would be able to sell it.
People who are on a sort of like a waiting list.
But also similarly, I think if you missed out on a ticket, if you were willing to, you know, take the risk of buying it off someone on Facebook, I think you would have a pretty good chance of getting a ticket. But yeah, they were really fun. I don't know if I'll go to the next one because I think the next one is on a Monday night, which is just a bit of an awkward night for me. But I have, really enjoyed them. So I'll definitely go to more in the future. And I think she also did do for both of the ones so far, which I thought this was nice. It wasn't like an official thing, but she just said, you know, for people if they're coming by themselves and maybe don't feel 100% confident about going by themselves, she organised like in the hour and a half beforehand or whatever a meetup at a bar for anyone who was by themselves, that I guess then you can meet someone and maybe have someone to sit next to in the movie type of thing. But to be honest, I think it's also the type of thing that you could definitely go to by yourself, like
I suppose, I mean, I've found that whenever we've been to like those knitting meetups, I think I am quite an introverted person and sometimes feel a bit sort of anxious like meeting new people, but I guess like if you're going to something like that, you kind of have a guaranteed like thing in common with other people there, and there's kind of, you already have sort of like a fairly easy like default conversation topic of just being like, what are you working on, like what are you knitting or what are you crocheting kind of thing. It's like a fairly good kind of icebreaker, I guess.
So then the last thing on crafty event or whatever on my
on your calendar
agenda, and we're not going to the Bendigo Sheep and Wool show, by the way.
When is it?
In 2 weeks, I think, middle of July. I was like thinking, because a lot of my knitting friends are going, but I was like, I can't be spending like more money on yarn, and like I have two.
I suppose it's also a long way to travel if you weren't actually planning to buy.
Yeah, and I have like two a lot of yarn that I like. I'm sort of running out of space, so I think I need to just like use some of the things I have rather than buying more stuff.
Oh yeah, because I can recall on one of those knitting meetups,
famous last
hearing
words,
people say that they'd spent like thousands of dollars on yarn at that. Which I mean, I guess that's fine if that's kind of like the one big event.
Yeah, like I think some people are like, I don't buy any yarn for the year, and then I save.
I buy
for
my
Bendigo.
entire year's worth. I mean, I guess like people can spend the money whatever they like as well. Like, I suppose it's really only a problem if you don't actually have the money.
And like I was thinking, it would be like just a fun like day out kind of thing to just go with friends, even if I didn't buy anything. But then I was like, realistically, I don't think that.
Oh, you would be able to resist.
I think if I went, I would buy stuff. So, I have decided I won't go this year. Maybe, like we've never been, maybe at some point in the future I will go, but not this year. But so I did go to a couple of weekends ago, I think 2 weeks ago, was the Australian Crochet Guild, their annual national conference, which is, I think, from what I can tell from looking at their website, which doesn't have heaps of information, but I think it is an annual thing that is usually goes for 3 days, and it seems to usually be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I'm pretty sure it's in a different city each year. So I'm purely basing this off of the fact that this year's was in Melbourne and last year's was in Sydney. So maybe it just flips back between Melbourne and Sydney, but I'm not too sure if maybe it does actually go to other cities as well. So I guess because for me, like my sort of professional background, I'm used to like scientific conferences.
You're like, what would a crochet conference? Like people are not presenting like a research study on like the benefits of crochet kind of thing. Or like I don't know, do they have like poster presentations?
No,
or, like,
and
oral
so
presentations?
yeah, I was thinking like a sort of typical conference program at like a scientific conference, there will be like sort of like a poster hall, but then throughout the day there is always usually multiple streams of talks that you just
I think often at like the start and end of the day there'll be like a plenary session, which is where everyone goes into the same big auditorium and they have like a big panel discussion.
So I think this was quite different because I think most of the like the specific program was actually in the form of workshops, which you had to sign up for. And obviously...
That makes sense. That it was like a technique workshop.
Yeah, and there's obviously an additional cost associated with attending the workshops.
Because was the actual conference free to attend?
It was $10 to get in.
Okay. So just sort of like a nominal kind of fee.
Yeah, which I just bought the sort of general admission ticket. So my impression of it was that if you have just the general admission, there's not heaps of things that you can do.
Did they have just sort of like an exhibition or?
They did. So, well, they had they had a yarn market.
What you say what there was? Yeah, I was going to say so like the conference, like scientific conference equivalent of like a trade exhibition.
Yes, there were a bunch
people
of
selling stuff.
I guess I don't know. I'd call them like breakout rooms, almost like just sort of rooms with like chairs and tables and stuff to just
crochet,
sort of socialize and crochet.
Okay.
And it seemed like as well, and I must admit I didn't stay for very long because I actually had something on that same day, so I only had about 45 minutes to be there. I think there were maybe people working on some kind of like communal projects as well.
That's nice.
Yeah. They also did have
some of those like yarn bombing like
projects.
Yeah.
I unfortunately did not get a chance to take advantage of this because I was in too big of a hurry. But they also had a room where you could get a free neck and shoulder massage.
Oh.
I think maybe they were like, I don't know, like physiotherapy students or like remedial massage students or something.
If you had like a neck and shoulder injuries from doing too much crochet.
Yeah. So, oh my God, if I would have been there all day, I would just keep lining up for free massage. But because I assume the free massage is like 5-10 minutes kind of thing. Like it wouldn't be like a free 1 hour.
No, it's not going to be like a full body massage.
But there was quite a big line like when I was there, then I was like, oh, I really don't have time. Like I've got somewhere else that I have to get to. Yeah. So there was that, and they did have like while I was there in the room where they had the yarn market, they were having like a fashion show.
Oh, that's a cool sort of thing. Like people exhibiting like their handmade.
Yeah. And then as I was leaving, they did have like on the big one of the big TV screens, they had like they were broadcasting an interview with a crochet designer who, from his accent, I think he is from a German-speaking country, but I'm not sure if he was German or Austrian or Swiss or... but it was some crochet designer. So I think they have some like presentations that you could sort of attend or watch or whatever with just the general admission. Yeah. But I think that probably to get a bit more out of it, you would probably have to...
sign up to some
of the workshops. And I will, I guess, also have the disclaimer, I'm not a guild member, so I don't know if maybe there were some things that if you were a guild member with general admission, you had access to. I'm not too sure. And I think they did have, on the opening night, I think they did have like some kind of like social... like, I don't know if it was a dinner or just like a cocktail hour or something like that. I think there was something like that on the first day. But I just went on the Saturday morning.
They often have some sort of like gala dinner on the first night of the conference.
So I mainly went to have a look at the yarn market, but I'm not, I can't speak for all of the things that were available, but that was just my sort of thing. And I think I didn't take that much video footage, but whatever I did, I will hopefully have kind of included it over the top. But I will show you, I guess, what I bought.
Yep.
So there were a few people selling patterns again. There was someone selling like a lot of books, I think they're called Can Do Books, and I think they are like a distributor for like lots of craft books as well. So they had a lot of crochet books, but they also did have some like knitting books, sewing books, all of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I think, there were also people selling sort of like accessories, like stitch markers,
just little
project bags.
Kind of.
Yeah, and then also just like, I don't know if they had like t-shirts, but they definitely did have like mugs and stuff like that, being like...
Or like key rings.
You know, I'm counting stitches, go away, or like, like I crochet so I don't murder people, and like just sort of like, I guess like funny... like slogans like that related to crochet.
Yeah.
And then... Yeah, apart from yarn, I think that was the main type of stalls that were there. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else. No, and like I don't think... It seems like I think already, like I was talking to Tess from Fluff and Nonsense who was there. Yep. Like I think in the sort of crochet sphere there is less of a culture of using hand-dyed yarns than there is in knitting.
I suppose because a lot of like people, I suppose a lot of younger people who are doing crochet is they're making things like amigurumi and stuff like that they're using more just like solid colours.
Yes,
and I suppose maybe often like maybe a bit more affordable, like
well, and I mean that's the other thing, like crochet does use a lot more yarn than because it produces a much denser fabric. So to knit a jumper in like DK weight, I might need 6 skeins of yarn, but to do the same, like to make the same size of jumper, it's going to be a much denser fabric, so much warmer, but and a lot heavier. I might use 10 skeins of yarn. Okay. So it uses a lot more fabric.
Double the cost. A lot more yarn.
It uses a lot more fabric. So yeah, I think there's already not a huge culture of using hand-dyed yarn in crochet, and I have never seen anyone, I mean that's not to say that it's never happened, but I've never seen people spinning to crochet. Like I've only ever heard of people using hand spun for knitting and weaving as well, but I haven't ever seen anyone talk about using hand spun for crochet. So yeah, there was no one selling fibre. I think it was all people who were selling like materials. I guess it was all yarn. So I bought a little bit of commercial yarn and then some hand dyed. So I'll show maybe the commercial one first. This was from a stand called Calor Yarns, and I had a look at their website. They don't actually sell yarn on their website, so I think they're actually just like an Australian distributor for some of these commercial yarns. So I bought 3 of these from, it's called Lines du Nord, which sounds French.
I really like that color.
But it actually says it's made in Italy. So this is their gradient sock yarn, and I bought 3. So it kind of has a bit of a hand-dyed effect, but it's actually a commercial yarn.
Yep. That's really nice.
Yeah, so this colorway, I think, they just have numbers. So this is colorway number 16. Pierre's already claimed it by the looks of it. And I think it's hard to tell exactly from the way it's wound up, and on the label it has like a picture. I'll just sort of block out Pierre's face and see if it will focus of the sock, but I think that it does the gradient twice. If it doesn't, I guess I would just end up with mismatched socks. This one is color number 15. Sort of more pinky colours, and then I thought you would have preferred this one, but and this one is colorway number 10, so more greeny tones. I was actually thinking this blue one again, I was thinking of maybe making a beanie for our nephew, and I think if I did like a muscle burra that's like the long tube in this gradient effect, then I think you could maybe try and get it that you would end up having like one side is the darker colours, and then the other side, so it's almost like you have 2 beanies.
Like
I don't know.
You could make it like a reversible beanie. Yeah, you could flip it inside out depending on what colour.
I'll have a think about it. And these ones I think from memory were like $21 a ball. So they kind of have the effect of hand-dyed yarn, but it's significantly more affordable. And I think it does say on the label, it's a 75-25 wool nylon blend, but it's not merino. It's not quite as soft as merino, but I think it's still, for me, is like next to skin. So those were the 3 commercial ones. So as far as I can tell, this Calor Yarns, I don't think they sell like directly to the public, aside from at this market, I guess. But they're probably
just like a wholesale distributor.
So I guess if you were interested to buy those yarns, I think I did look online. There are.
I mean, you could probably email them and ask them for like like a list of stockists.
I think there are a few places that stock them in Australia, but I'd never seen them in a shop.
Yeah.
And then I bought. I'll show. Maybe this one first. I was visiting Tess from Fluff and Nonsense. I had a look at her stall, and she, for this market, she had mostly sort of like blues, greens and purples. That was kind of the colour palette that she seemed to have for this market. So I just bought another skein of her BFL Platinum BFL sock, which is a 75-25 Blueface Leicester nylon blend, and this colourway is called Nightshade, which is sort of a very, very deep like blue based purple, I would call it. Just thought it was a nice tonal. And then Julie from Little Woolly was there. She had mostly, I think, Hedgehog Fibres and Spun Right Round. So I did actually buy a few minis from Spun Right Round just to bulk up a little bit. The Marianne Bright Advent that I got from her, I think I talked about it when we did our like yarn advent debrief. I felt it was a little bit heavy on like blues and greens and didn't have very much sort of like yellows, reds and orange. So I just bought these 3 minis
to kind of balance it
from Spun Right Round to sort of add to that. So this one is called Raucous. This one is called Happy Hour, sort of oranges and reds. And this one, it's just a bit of everything, is called Jubilee.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so just some little minis. And then I bought 2 skeins of sock yarn from Spun Right Round. And this is their tough, I think they have 2 bases. One's called Tough Sock and one's called Classic Sock. I'm not too sure what the Classic Sock is, but Tough Sock is a 75-25 superwash merino nylon. So this colourway is called Told You So. So it's sort of mainly pinks, a bit of orange, but then also like little flecks of green. Quite nice. And this one is called Pack Your Maniac. So it's like a bluey purple skein of yarn, I feel. Standard colours for me. And then last but not least, can you guess?
Oh, Maximu.
I did buy a few skeins from Maximu, again on his luxury sock base. So that's his 85-15. So this one is called Crime Scene, sort of pinky reds, etc. This one is called Delicate, which is, I feel like it's like a very light pink with these green. Sort of green. I thought this one could be a nice one maybe for mum.
Oh, yeah.
And again, this one I was thinking of mum as well. This one is called Morning Tea.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is sort of like I would say this is probably as neutral as Maximu kind of gets. Yeah. So yeah, I think that was everything that I picked up. So yeah, like I said, oops, I dropped my yarn on the floor. Not going to Bendigo. One thing that I was thinking to check out, but more from just a looking perspective, because they actually are having like an exhibition and stuff like that.
Oh, that quilting thing, yeah.
Yeah, there's it's called, I think, the Australian Quilt Fair is on at the end of July at the Melbourne.
And I guess if
Melbourne
it's at the
Convention Centre,
it's not very far. Like it's just a train trip into the city kind of thing.
Yeah, so I was thinking to maybe check that out on the Saturday. Not really to buy stuff, but just to have a look and see.
Well, I suppose the other thing that we could think about that will be coming up soon is that in the winter school holidays? No, it's in the September school holidays. Isn't it the Royal Melbourne show?
Oh yes, yeah, we did go.
Because we didn't go last year.
Not last year, but the year before we went to the Royal Melbourne show to have a look at the craft.
Yeah, that was kind of the only really thing that we did.
Yeah.
I think, did we walk past like some of the rides? I'm like, oh no, the line's too long, and I'll probably be like throw up if I went on some crazy
interest in those
ride
ones
that spins you around.
Yeah, that you're in like a washing machine kind of thing. I think the only one that I was like vaguely interested in going on was basically just like a giant like slippery dip slide type of thing.
And we went to the Country Women's Association.
We had
has
some
like
scones,
a little cafe.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that giant slide thing, the line was like 20 minutes and it probably takes you 20 seconds to like get down the ride. So I was like, nah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's still a few months away, I guess, if it's in the September school holidays.
Yeah, that was so packed though. And we stupidly thought if we went on the day of the AFL Grand Final that like
there would be less people.
There would be less people because everyone would be watching the footy, but it was not the case.
Well, I mean, maybe it would be even more crowded.
That's true.
The only time that it was not crowded was, do you remember, I think there was some of those like crazy like stunt like motorcycle people who do like jumps and flips or whatever in their motorcycles, and when their sort of like exhibition started, which was just outside the building where all the like craft exhibits were, it did clear out a little bit because I think most people went outside to watch the motorbike. So we were like, oh, thank God it's, cleared out a little bit in here. We'll stay in here and look at the crafts, because we weren't interested in watching people almost, kill themselves on a motorbike.
But yeah, I think I will check out. And I think some of the for the exhibition at the Quilt Expo, like I think they have a few, like off the top of my head I can't exactly remember. I think one of them I remember is Kate Sobrano. Like she's a fairly famous Australian singer, but like
she also does quilting.
She quilts as a hobby. So I think they have some quilts that are like from like celebrities that like that's just their sort of hobby.
Yeah.
And then the other like part of the exhibition that they're having as well is actually a knitting. I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy. I actually can't remember his name, but like his sort of designer name or whatever is like The Boy Who Knits, and he knits all these like color work blocks of like different styles of houses. So he has like blocks of like I think terrace houses from Sydney, like those, I don't know, those really like, those long skinny houses that they have in like Nordic countries. Like, I'll show you some photos of it later. So I think the exhibition is called like The Boy Who Knits the World or something like that. So he makes these, I guess they're kind of like quilts in a sense that it's like a large blanket, but it's not a quilt in the sense of, that it's fabric sandwich with batting and, so I thought that could be interesting to see as well. And I think that's at the end of July. So I'll probably just go on the Saturday to that. I might see if Mum wants to come. So I think that's pretty much it in terms of all the crafty events and stuff that we've been to lately. So hopefully you enjoyed crafting along with us while we have a little bit of a chat. If you have any recommendations of any other events or anything like that, always happy to hear about it.
Apart from the Bendigo show.
Don't tell me. No, I will.
I mean, you can enjoy vicariously. I'm sure there'll be
I will. I'm sure there will be people
like
who make vlogs and stuff. And if I'm being honest as well, I did look at like the stall holder listing, and there weren't that many like
kind
sort of
jumped out at you,
yarn dyes. Not so much that I am not interested, but there weren't that many that I haven't seen recently at a market. Like I think a lot of them are still sort of Victorian based.
Okay.
So
that you are not getting like massive FOMO about not going.
Not really. Like
that's good.
I think maybe at some point, next year after, whenever, maybe it might be nice to go to something like that interstate, because then you will see, a few different...
Like if you went somewhere in Canberra or New South Wales.
Yeah, or I think there's one every year in Adelaide. Like, that might be something that would be a bit of a nice treat at some point, but
just make a bit of a trip out of it as well.
I guess. And I think that's the kind of stuff that if you're not there, you don't really know what you're missing. But I will probably, if there's people who if you're going to Bendigo and you're going to make a vlog about it, definitely let me know. I think I'll be fine.
All right.
So thank you for joining us. Our next episode will be just our normal podcast episode where we share whips and finished objects and plans and stuff. I won't reshare all these sort of acquisition type things, because I think it's already everyone's seen them. Hopefully you'll join us in our next episode. If you did like this video, it helps our channel if you give it a thumbs up. Just helps to share the video with more people. If you like the video and you're not yet subscribed, we would be delighted if you did subscribe to our channel if you wanted to see more of our videos. And I think apart from that, we'll see you in the next video. And until then, we wish you happy stitching. Bye.